Robyn already knows what your relationship is. So when she comes there, call herself dropping a bomb and making this revelatory proclamation that they are no longer going to be together, I think Robyn's already on the page where she understands that this is how these conversations were already had. This is how Kody feels. But in order to keep the show moving forward, in order to keep them involved in the show, and more importantly, in order to keep that money and that check hitting that door, then she has to sacrifice Meri, and I think she's more than willing to do it. Let's get it. You know, the more I talk about the sister wives relationships, the more disturbing it is to me, because the more I start to think about it, a lot of what they say and a lot of the ways that they portray their relationships on the television set for the show are not true to how people interact and true to human nature. For instance, there's a point where both Kody and Robyn pretend as though they really want to have these relationships work out. They want these ladies around. Kody presented himself as this forward, progressive thinking man who just happens to be trapped in a system that historically has been misogynistic and oppressive to women, but he's this new generation kind of guy. But then when you peel all the layers back, the truth of the matter is that Kody is just as misogynistic as the guys of yore, the guys who started this religion. He's just as bad. When you look at Robyn and she's sitting there crying, talking about the loss of her family, the reality of it is Robyn actually reminds me more closely to a guy who doesn't do any of the maintenance work, takes his wife for granted, and then is surprised that she wants to leave. He thinks that the type of guy who would go to work, then get off of work, go over to the bar for a few hours, hang out with his buddies, then go to his girlfriend's house for X amount of hours, do Lord knows what, then comes home and fully expects his wife to have a hot meal on the stove waiting for him when he walks through the door. And he's extremely upset and insulted almost that his wife isn't serving all his needs. And if for some reason she decides or gets it in her mind that she no longer wants to participate in this relationship and she wants to leave. And how could she possibly do this? Now she's breaking up the family. Doesn't she have a sense of honor and respect? That's what I see when I see Robyn. And it's weird to me that I'm watching these folks try to rehabilitate their images through this show, and they are presenting ideas and concepts and situations that don't make any sense. One of the things that came out during the talkback, which kind of dovetailed me into this whole line of thinking, was actually something where Robyn, Meri, and Kody were talking about the covenant of being married. Let's take a listen to what Kody had to say with regard to the potential that he's actually the one that broke the covenant between him and Meri and dissolved that relationship.
For the past 6 months, I've had to really take a lot of time to figure out the fact that there really is no commitment or covenant. He's already broken it.
From everything that you know about our covenants, would you say that you've somehow broken your covenant?
No, Meri had the affair. I didn't break covenants, and it wasn't a physical affair, so I thought we were reconcilable.
Now, for people who were on my last live, when I broached the subject of the whole catfish incident, there were a plethora of people who took the position that Meri's catfish incident wasn't cheating because Kody had abandoned the relationship years prior to her even being catfished or getting on the computer and talking to anyone. Now, I can see that line of thinking. And I think that we could have a lively discussion, which we did, about whether it's cheating, whether Meri had already been abandoned, whether the relationship was actually technically over, etc., etc., etc. The craziest thing to me is that Kody is taking the position that irregardless of how I treated her, irregardless of what I did for her or to her, or whether I came around or not, I didn't break the covenant. She broke the covenant because she cheated on me. But then again, I don't consider it a broken covenant, and I thought it was reconcilable because she didn't have a physical affair. Okay, fine. According to Kody, they were still in a marriage. They were still locked in as far as the commitment and the covenants and everything was concerned. He just wasn't planning on treating her as though she was his wife. He wasn't going to go around, but she was supposed to act as though she was his wife. And even Robyn, we may sit here and pretend that, oh, well, Robyn was her greatest advocate. Robyn was Meri's biggest supporter. One of the biggest contributions I think Jen brought into the whole talk back when Meri's friend, when she came out and she started making her commentary, was the idea that it was on Kody and Robyn to let Meri go, because their whole position is extremely selfish. They're only looking out for themselves. They're only looking out for how they can benefit from the things that they're doing with regard to this relationship and how it affects them. They don't care how it affects Meri. And I think that that in and of itself is evident. And I want to kind of tie that up towards the end when we get to it, because I pulled some more clips, because I like to bring the receipts. The next thing I wanted to talk about or address was the excuses that Kody was making with regard to why the relationship had fallen apart and why things weren't working out as he had planned, and how it's actually Meri's fault that the relationship isn't there. Let's take a look.
When we moved to Flagstaff, which has now been 5 years, over 5 years, I told Meri, yeah, we might be able to get this, start over again. And after we did the whole start over again thing, we were spending time together, and every time I spent time with her, it wasn't healthy.
So Kody talks about this time when we first got to Flagstaff, it was the first 5 years, and we've been here for 5 years, and the first time we get to Flagstaff, I tried to tell her that we were going to work things out and we were going to start off new, and tries to sell that to the audience as though him having a clean slate and willing to wipe the slate clean so that they can move forward with their commitment in their relationship. The truth of the matter is that what occurred was, if you look at the timeline, when they left Arizona or left Nevada for Arizona, Meri had rented a home. Once they all got here from Arizona, they left their house in Las Vegas. Meri gets here. She was in that house for a little bit. They figured out that they would be doing tape in the neighborhood, that she was a polygamist. They didn't want the taping and they didn't want the polygamy in the neighborhood, bringing attention to the neighborhood, so they kicked her out. The landlord kicked her out of the house. Meri packed her stuff up and went back to Vegas, where she was enjoying herself. She was surrounded by friends. She enjoyed her house, etc., etc. So there was a question of whether she was actually going to sell her home. And what Kody did was he took her out to ensure that she would sell that damn house in Vegas so that he could get the proceeds from that home sale. Once he got her out, got her excited about coming to Arizona, she moves to Arizona, sells her house. All of a sudden, communication stops. Interest stops. Now, all of a sudden, Meri is getting on his nerves and he can't believe she's still hanging around. He wanted her to sell her house so that he could get the money. That's what it was about. It wasn't about wiping the slate clean and starting over, because she was interested in starting over. To this day, I in my feeling, if Kody came to Meri and sincerely said, Meri, I want to start things over, let's give it another shot, Meri would drop everything she has going on and she would try to start it over with Kody. I genuinely believe that, because she's still in that place. Kody still has that key to her heart. She's still angry. She's angry. She's starting to get angry now. She's starting to get a little bitter. So she may lash out at Kody and start saying things about Kody. But at the end of the day, that anger is rooted in the adoration and love that she has towards him. Now, when it comes to them trying to redefine a relationship, they're trying to make Meri the villain so that they can elevate their own status on this show. And that's what we're watching. Now, part of them making Meri the villains, they have to make themselves the victims. But the ironic part is, Kody is going to make the assertion that Meri is in fact the villain and they are the victims. Let's take a listen.
So then about a month ago, I saw where he actually said, no, I don't consider myself married to Meri anymore.
I don't really consider myself married to Meri. if she wanted to move on and marry another, she wouldn't get an argument with me.
That was pretty insulting and pretty vulgar for him to just be open to that.
I don't understand why she keeps playing this, and I think it's because she's addicted to being a victim.
I don't understand why she keeps playing the part where I said I don't want to have nothing to do with her and I wish she would just go on and get somebody else. I don't understand what the problem is. See, the whole problem is, and I think that there was a point where we kind of get lost in the sauce. The problem isn't the fact that Meri was going to move on and find somebody else, that she was going to move out. He wanted to have access to her funds. He wanted to have access to her finances. He wanted, and more importantly, with regard to this show and this opportunity, he needed Meri to be around, hanging around, and doing things so it gives him something to talk about, especially something to talk about other than his life with Robyn and their relationship, and it could take less focus off of his relationship with Christine and his relationship with Janelle, because it would give him another foil to deal with. He would have build in a foil with Meri where she would be the heel in that relationship. She's the one that keeps coming around, keeps begging for this relationship. I don't want to be in a relationship with her. I keep telling her, because you guys see me tell everybody that I don't want to be with her, but she keeps coming back asking and begging, but I keep telling her no, and she's now intruding on me and my family. There was a point where their anniversary came around, and this is a story that they had told, that the anniversary came around. Meri calls up and asks if Kody can go out for the anniversary, and Kody basically tells her, look, I'm here with my family. I don't have time for you. And then he goes and talks to Robyn, and Robyn encourages him to go out with, spend a little bit of time with Meri that evening on their anniversary. He's totally checked out. Now, here's an interesting twist, as promised, that I wanted to put into the video, talking about an observation I made with regard to Meri and Robyn's relationship, because I think that this is very important as well. But first, let's listen to Meri as she drops a bomb on Kody on Coyote Pass about leaving Arizona and going back to Padawan. Let's take a listen.
Things that you've said to me and about me this year.
Uh-oh.
It changes
you're
things.
making about what I said. Why can't we get on the page where we're making about where we are instead of about what I say?
That's an interesting way of saying, look, instead of us talking about the things that I did, why don't we just accept it and never talk about it again? We'll never speak of that. That's kind of where Kody is. And one of the more interesting things to me is that this feeds into the narrative that Meri had started to push forward, that Kody had acknowledged for a while that they no longer have a marriage, they no longer have a relationship, and that they were going to move on. And they were just going to pretend to be in a relationship. Now, this is damaging in a lot of ways. If psychologically, if you're tied into a relationship that you're not really in, that you want to be in, and the person who you want to be in a relationship with is like, look, I want to pretend as though we're together, but I really don't want to be with you. But we're going to put on the facade as though we're together, and there's a possibility that we could actually work things out. So when I go out and I start trying to hold your hand, put my arm around you, pretending like we're closer than we actually are, just understand that that's not real. That's not how the heart works. And that would be torture for anybody who is attracted to somebody, to be forced to pretend that they're in a relationship with that person, only for that person to say, yeah, there's no way that this is going to happen. That's terrible. But it begs the question, what does Robyn know and what didn't Robyn know? Because I get the feeling that part of the reason that Meri wanted to have this conversation wasn't just so she could air it out and put it on TV, but she also wanted to, one, hurt Kody by telling this story in front of Robyn so that she could get Robyn's support, because everybody is holding out that Robyn is the one who's fighting for this relationship and she wants it so bad. Two, she wants a situation where she can say this in front of Robyn to hurt Kody and to inform Robyn of the situation. So she'll hurt Kody because Robyn could become mad at him, angry with him, and try to, rise to defend Meri. And how could you treat her this way? And I think that that's one of the things that Meri was actually looking for. The ironic part is is that after this clip, I want to explore the idea that Robyn already knew. Let's take a look.
So a couple of days ago, Kody and I had this discussion about where our marriage was and that it really was not going to move forward. But the thing is, every conversation that he and I have had about it has been private. It's just been between me and him. And he actually has said that he did not want it to be public. And I don't think that's fair, because I think it's important that it's public. And I think it's important that Robyn hears it.
I think it's important that it be public, and I think it's important that Robyn hears it. The thing is, I don't think that there's a whole lot of conversations or interactions that Kody has with any of these women that Robyn doesn't hear about. That he doesn't filter these experiences through Robyn's processing data banks to figure out the best outcome, best next move, best thing that he should do. I think that, and this is just my suspicion, that Robyn already knows what your relationship is. So when she comes there, call herself dropping a bomb and making this revelatory proclamation that they are no longer going to be together, I think Robyn's already on the page where she understands that this is how these conversations were already had. This is how Kody feels. But in order to keep the show moving forward, in order to keep them involved in the show, and more importantly, in order to keep that money and that check hitting that door, then she has to sacrifice Meri, and I think she's more than willing to do it. Why do I think that? I think that that's an extreme possibility, because if Robyn was actually trying to have a relationship with Meri, she would have contacted Meri. She would have stayed in touch with Meri. She would have kept up with Meri. Instead of Meri sitting in that house, that rental property in Arizona alone, waiting for any contact from anybody from the Brown family, Robyn would have been the one who had stayed in constant contact for her. If she was defending her and arguing for her, and more to the point, advocating for her, then she would be trying to include her. If anything, somebody who wants somebody to be a part of their family or their situation would have been bringing Meri to the house, would have been sitting Meri in the room and giving her every opportunity to interact with Kody as much as she possibly could, so that they could potentially rehabilitate their marriage and then reconcile their situations and get back together. If that's what she was genuinely trying to do, that would make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me that you insist that these two are going to get back together. You're advocating for Meri, but then you don't take any opportunity to put Meri and Kody in the same space at the same time, so that they can actually enjoy each other's company, and you could help to facilitate that. When they were sitting on Coyote Pass and they had the big last discussion, they went out there with the intention of talking about that damn land. That was the whole purpose of it. Meri was coming out to drop the bomb and tell them that they're going to Padawan, but Robyn and Kody did not know that that was the case. In fact, if you listen to what they said and how they said it, they showed up with the game plan of screwing Meri out of her land. Kody was going to talk about how they're dividing the land up into 5 equal properties still, and not 5 equal properties, 5 properties still. Robyn already came in with her whole speech about how she needs to protect her 4 acres, not understanding that her acreage is tied into Kody's acreage. And like Meri said, Robyn, I'm sure, can do math. If Kody gets 4, she gets 4, then they have 8 acres of the 14 acres of land. Janelle is taking 4. That's 12, and that only leaves Meri with 2. Robyn understood this, and she was okay with it. And then when Kody went back to try to explain his portion, if you recall, Robyn took the position, no, stop talking, shut up, keep your mouth closed. You're angry, you're in a bad place. I don't want you to say things that are going to mess up my position and what I have going on, because she is trying to control the situation. Robyn knew about that. She knew fully about that. The only thing that might have caught her by surprise is the fact that Meri was sitting there talking about she was going to move away, and she was announcing that the relationship and the marriage facade was going to be over. Robyn knew that it was a game, because she even said that, well, we've been doing this certain thing for a while. The certain thing that she's talking about is the pretending that they were in a relationship. That's the certain thing that they were talking about. Robyn is in on the whole thing. And I'm happy that Meri has somebody like Jen who's going to start pulling her coattails and alerting her of the fact that your friend ain't your friend. That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out.
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side, PCA.